Chapter 18. On Earth, Misun likely might have died. At the very least, she would have been in the hospital for months, probably never fully recovered. But, as I'd seen in the aftermath of the attack on the Dependable, things worked differently here in the Confederation. Before Misun had even hit the floor, the nanites in her system were at work to put her in a stasis and stabilize her until she could reach the medical facility, across the government compound. There, they spent about 6 hours working their high-tech, largely automated magic on her. All the initiates, even Ardov, sat in the waiting room in respectful silence, the only sound the endless clacking of Mrs. Price's keyboard. Finally, we received word via our bracelets that Misun would make a complete recovery. She was awake and in no pain, but it was a sign of the seriousness of her injuries that she would have to stay in the facility for 48 hours, after which she'd be back to normal.
"I'm glad that's finally over,"
Mrs. Price said. She made her keyboard vanish, rose, and walked out of the waiting room. I echoed her sentiment, and maybe felt even a little more than she did. I didn't have any warm, fuzzy feelings about Misun, but she was a person, if an unpleasant one, and I didn't want anything terrible to happen to her. Nothing too terrible, at least. Setbacks? Sure. Embarrassment? You bet. Abject apologizing for her rotten behavior towards me? Absolutely. The bottom line was that she was a member of my team, and I didn't want Earth to lose one of its delegates. But that was the later, more logical reason. My first emotional response was that I simply didn't want someone I knew to die. I felt a flood of relief wash over me, and it was only then that I realized Tamret, sitting next to me, was holding my hand. It was nice, warm, and comforting. Her fur was like the softest down imaginable, and I could feel the cool of her finger pads underneath, and just a hint of her retracted claws. Her touch seemed comforting and dangerous at the same time, and I liked the sensation. I couldn't help but wonder what it all meant. "Man, I thought she was dead for sure," Ardov said. "Does this mean we can't be killed here?" Dr. Roop made no effort to hide his irritation, but he still answered the question.
"You can survive most serious injuries provided you are near a medical facility. A direct wound to the heart or catastrophic brain injury is almost always fatal."
He looked at all of us.
"But I don't want anyone to take any foolish chances, and no more sparring under level 6 from now on."
"Aw, come on, that's no fun," Ardov said with a smirk.
"You can all go back to your rooms now,"
Dr. Roop said.
"Except you, Ardov. I want to see you in my office."
Charles and Niana were already leaving. I let go of Tamret's hand and looked at her and Steve. "Will you guys hold on? I want to go talk to Misun for a minute." Tamret squinted at me. Her whiskers twitched.
"Why? She hates you."
"It could have been me in there," I said. Tamret lowered her eyes, and her ears rotated back.
"You're right, but you're nicer than she deserves."
I wasn't just being grateful or a good teammate, though. I wanted to talk to someone from my own world about something I'd been thinking about. Charles was impossible to talk to, and I didn't think Niana would have any insights anyways. Misun was my best shot, and I hoped her near-death experience would maybe take some of the edge off her. When I went in, she sat propped up on the bed in a private room. A million machines were monitoring her, beeping and humming softly. There were tubes wired into her arms. It looked like a high-tech version of an Earth hospital room. For all the seriousness of her injuries, she was now awake and reading off her data bracelet. She looked at me in surprise when I came through the door. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I couldn't stay away. I'm in love with you, Misun. I have been since the moment we met. From my first taste of your antisocial rudeness, I've longed for your scornful gaze." She wrinkled up her face. "Gross. You're messing with me, aren't you?" "Yeah, I'm totally messing with you," I said, sitting in a chair across from the foot of her bed. "Way to go. Try to stress out the girl who practically died." She was almost smiling when she said it, though. I don't think I've ever seen her smile before. "I'll try to work on my sensitivity," I told her. She sighed and closed her eyes. "So, what do you want?" "You don't have to thank me. I was just trying to keep our planet from—" She stopped herself, and her face softened. I had the feeling she'd been about to say something nasty, and then changed her mind. If the situation had been reversed, and there was some kind of incredibly dorky thing that needed doing, I know that you'd have stepped in for me. That was the nicest thing she'd ever said to me. It was maybe the nicest thing any human had said to me since I'd left Earth. Yeah, I would have, I told her. Now that that's settled, you can go. She turned away. I wasn't ready to go, though. I took a deep breath, because I knew this was not going to go very well. Did you ever read Ender's Game? Why are you such a geek? She asked me. I was almost killed, and you come to visit me in the hospital to ask me about a stupid science fiction story? Just hear me out, I said. It's about this kid who... I saw the movie, okay? She rolled her eyes. Book is better, I told her. Whatever, she said. Just make a point. I'm tired and I need to sleep. You remember how they have Ender playing all those games, supposedly to train him to fight the enemy, but it turns out he's really been fighting them the whole time? It looks like training, but it's really the actual battle, right? Yeah, she said. What are you getting at? You don't think that's what's going on here, do you? No, it can't be, but I do think we're being used, or at least trained. Everything we're doing is either to train us to fight the fads, or to help the Confederation understand former tech, which is in the service of fighting the fads. I'm starting to feel like humans were chosen because we're more... I don't know, more violent than the other species. Before we left Earth, Mrs. Price kept talking about how they're all sheep compared to us. So what? She asked. They picked us because we have something they need to help the Confederation. I don't really have a problem with that. The problem is that they're not being honest. Tamret and Steve and I... Stop, she said. I don't care what you and your Scooby-Doo gang get up to, but don't make me a part of it. I just want to keep my head down and gain levels. You should do the same. I can't make you stop acting like an idiot, but I don't have to listen to your theories either. I understand, but I said I don't want to hear it, she snapped. I sighed and rose from my chair. Okay, fine. I went towards the door, and then turned back. You really did put up a fight, though. She frowned. He still won. He's still a jerk, though. So am I, she said. The universe is so vast and full of wonders that it actually contains a bigger jerk than you. Feel better. I was turning to leave again when she called back to me. Hey, where's Charles and Diana? They went to go get some food, I said. So you're the only one who came to visit me? Well, I guess so. That's pathetic, she said with a scowl. But thanks. No problem. I turned back to look at her. I have to know something, though. What? She asked, uneasily. When you talked about my Scooby-Doo gang, is that a primary reference to Scooby-Doo Where Are You, or a secondary reference to Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Get out of my room, she answered.